You're listening to Sit, Talk, and Listen podcast with your hosts, Payroll Rob and Zadie Bauer.
Skibbity. That's what we're going to start with. We're going to start with a bunch of skibbities. Hello, everybody. Today is January 15th, 2025, episode 26 of Sit, Talk, and Listen. Zadie, we are here. This is what you call consistency.
Episode 3 of 2025, which out of 15 days, we're looking at a little more than an episode per week.
Yeah.
We're back.
We're back, baby. More than an episode a week. How are things going? You know, you're getting settled in with some new old work, if you will, back into the server life.
Yeah, just one shift so far, but by God, it felt good to be back. You know, just a little 11 to 3 action, get in, get out.
It's like riding a bike, you know.
It was. There's new little systems in order and all that stuff. So just getting a little familiar with that. But other than that, dude, it's just...
They got to change the POS or still using Toast?
No, it is Toast, but I didn't have Toast when I was there.
Oh, okay. Well, that's the most popular of the POS systems in restaurants, I'd say. So now you're going to be familiar with it.
Yeah, I already got the sense that I like it, but man, it's just knowing people. I always say, like, people go to restaurants, like, what would you like if you were at a restaurant? Like, what kind of service would you consider good?
Exactly.
And just treat it as such. Read situations.
It should be that simple, but it seems like there's a lot of servers that doesn't click for them. They don't want to provide the same type of service that they would expect if they were to go out to eat.
Well, you get in what you put out a lot of the times. Like,
yeah. And that's what makes that line of work rewarding, is knowing that you get rewarded based on your service and your effort that you put into it. You know, it's not just you're getting paid a flat rate like a lot of other jobs.
Yeah, just be attentive, try to anticipate needs rather than wait for them to ask.
Yeah.
And just learning each, it's just like life. You read people, if you ever to read people and see, not everybody's the same. Some people want you to be more interactive. Some people want to be left the fuck alone.
Yeah. And you can get a sense of that if you're paying attention and you look out for it. So, I agree.
Yeah, anyways.
Well, that's cool.
Enough of that.
Glad that you're comfortable in there. I've just been fighting off the old seasonal depression probably myself. It's been classic, always get into these times of years. And I'm always trying to I try to have a positive mindset going into winter, like, there's a lot of things that I'm happy about and to look forward to and try to keep it going, but here we are in January again, and I'm like, things suck. Life sucks. Getting dark and it's cold. This sucks.
But aren't we past the shortest amount of daytime?
Yes, we are past the solstice, the winter solstice. Solstice? I don't know.
It is.
We are
terrible,
past that.
though.
But I'll tell you, if it's below freezing temperatures, I'm a sad boy. Sad boy. But what are you going to do? I try to keep myself occupied with things that make me happy. So that's the best I can do. But outside of that, it's all right. Been trying to lock in on different stuff that's going on in the world of sports. But before we get to the world of sports, I guess we should kind of talk about, as we were recording our last episode, there was some fires breaking out in Los Angeles area. Have since obviously spread and become global news. Wildfires, if you will, and wild news stories.
Yeah, it seems to be. I mean, this could, when we do the end of the year episode and we recap the biggest things, this could easily be on there. And then the year just started, but it's pretty big. It's obviously.
We thought we had some of the top news stories from the first of the month. We talking, or the first of the month, first of the year. We're talking about the guy blowing up the Tesla thing and the dude in New Orleans. And now we have massive fires causing tons of destruction in the LA area. And it's, it's become politicized just like everything else in this country and in this world. People want to start pointing fingers right away. There's always somebody to blame and everybody's opinions matter.
Well,
to me, I don't know. It's like we can all have our opinions and stuff, but you got to have at least you got to be empathetic to the people that are being displaced from their homes. You got to be empathetic for complete neighborhoods being burnt down, regardless of whatever basis you think, these fires started. Oh, they were man-made. Oh, it's natural. This and that. It doesn't matter. At the end of the day, there's still people that are dealing with destruction that you should feel some sort of empathy for. But for some reason, that seems like it's dried up a lot in our society.
Yeah, I don't think how the fires got there or why they're there.
They're in question for some people.
It doesn't really play. But if you're living and your house is on fire, your first thought is probably not like, how did this happen? Yeah. Or it shouldn't be. Right. No, I
don't think it's necessarily the people in LA that are
that's what I'm saying.
Asking these questions. It's everybody outside that just thinks that they're, wants to stir the pot. Everybody just loves stirring the pot.
Their opinion needs to be out there.
And they're like, well, I'm just asking questions. I just want to know, X, Y, and Z. And they just come up, I don't know. They don't worry about people's lives first. They worry about
jet fuel doesn't melt steel beams.
Yeah. Why aren't these trash cans burnt when other things are burnt? Well, it's possible those trash cans are made of different material, or there was no fire near the trash can. It's got to have something directly.
It's an interesting question, but I don't know if it's the questions that we need to be asking right now.
No,
I get what you're saying. And off the show, you were giving a sentiment that I kind of agree with, that I don't think upon often. I already have a general kind of disdain for everybody feeling like they need to
make their voices known.
Which, as we are on a podcast, but I think that we both try to
spew opinions. We're usually just trying to look at things from both perspectives.
Yeah, exactly. I think that is a problem with, and which we'll get into later, a lot of social media and stuff. It just gives everybody with an opinion that is usually quite divisive.
Yeah. Well, you know what the old saying about opinions is, right? Opinions are like assholes. Everybody's got one, and they usually stink. Yeah. Right? I mean, come on now. So anyway, I just wanted to mention those because it's a pretty large deal happening in our country at the moment. So just thought we should bring that to light on the people. It's not like we have any insight on the matters. We don't know.
I don't have any insight. I do know it's just crazy. Obviously you hear every year there's fires in California, but this seems to be the worst as it's been. And
it just seems wild that typically natural disasters and things like that can bring a community of people together. But in this case, it's once again dividing people somehow. I don't quite understand what the difference is, why hurricanes in Florida are treated differently than wildfires or fires in general.
Well, they're not Boston strong, and that's what we're missing here.
You're right. They're not Boston strong.
We're only in this country. There's a small.
Yeah, where's the LA strong? Why is nobody putting their profile pictures with a LA flag border?
They're not strong enough.
They're not strong enough.
I hate to tell them. No, but I did hear. So I listened to Kirk Minahan's show. He's a Barstool personality.
Shouts out.
Pretty strong one. And he's from Boston, and he kind of made a point that I used to always say. He's like, I never got the whole Boston strong thing. He's like, are we saying if there was mass shootings in Omaha, Nebraska, they'd be like pussies, they'd run from it? He's like, what makes us strong as a community? He's like, it's just kind of silly.
Well, that's that East Coast salt of the earth attitude,
But I just like that it was coming from a Boston native questioning, because I was saying it back then, not that I am happy in that instance that people are able to
Ukraine.
They're able to rally together, but it's yes, this terrible tragedy is happening, but it does not necessarily mean that I don't know. I guess I should just
leave the hashtags at home, everybody.
Hashtag LA strong.
Yeah. Hashtag LA strong. We'll leave it at that.
We haven't seen that yet, though.
No, not even. That's kind of my whole point is there's been no outcry of support from people. I mean, no real outcry. There's been, the leagues, different professional sports leagues and stuff have had their moments of silence and try to.
Do you think that's because the national perception of LA?
Yes,
is what it is.
Yeah, that's all there is to it. It's just people have in their minds of, LA people think they're better than the rest of us in America, so fuck them. Is kind of how it's playing out. And that's, I don't know.
What if this happened to Philadelphia?
Philly strong. Hashtag.
But, I mean,
that's what people would be saying. They'd be saying, oh my God, this is such a tragedy, but there would also be like the whole more of a factor of like you're burning down some American history if your Philadelphia is burning down. Not that stuff in LA isn't American history. I mean, you have some of these famous homes from the 40s and 50s, like your standard Beach Boys type of neighborhoods. Like these are classic Americana, imagery. We're talking that has just been burnt up and destroyed.
I'm not saying I condone any of this.
Well,
but trying to get into the mind of some of these people being so negative,
right?
It's like
and dismissive.
A lot of people are very jealous. Maybe cold in their Midwestern, Northeastern, Northern homes.
Yeah, the classic.
And they're like, "Oh, boo-hoo! Well, one tragedy happens. The rest of their time there, it's 75 and sunny. You have
they're just a bunch of millionaires out there anyway. They can afford this and that."
Well, I think a lot of LA there's quite a gap of wealth in LA, probably more so than anywhere else.
Yeah, and even a home that does cost $1 million in LA, that doesn't, that's like buying a home that's $500,000 here. So I don't know. I just wish that people would be a little bit more empathetic. Oh. Is really the whole crux of this conversation. And so calling out those ones that are just being perpetuators of different conspiracies. Like
I blame big insurance.
Oh yeah, I mean, I like blaming insurance for everything. Do you think they just burnt down all these homes because why? They didn't want to insure them any longer, so they started these fires. That's what we're saying.
I don't know, it just seems. I guess it'd be the opposite. Big insurance would not want this, would they? No, but they could raise their rates then.
Right, but that was one of the first things I saw after the talk of the fires was people like, oh, these fires are weird. It's coming months after some insurance companies canceled their policies for these homeowners. Yeah, but it's the same thing like when insurance companies pulled policies from Florida homeowners because of hurricanes. They just know that the threat was there, so it wasn't profitable for these insurance companies. And that's the whole crux of why insurance sucks in the first place, is as soon as it's not profitable for them to protect somebody, they just stop. They say, oh, you know what? We don't see ourselves making money from this situation, so we're going to go ahead and excuse ourselves from providing any kind of coverage for you.
What insurance CEO will be killed first?
I don't know them by names, but I think probably somebody's going to come after State Farm.
Ooh.
Is it Jake? Jake from State Farm? No.
He's the mascot. He's the puppet of all this.
He's the fucking puppet.
You just put a guy out there, smiling face. And
yeah. He changed races somewhere along the way, too.
Well, yeah, that is because the original State Farm guy, they just asked, he was a State Farm employee.
Yeah.
And named Jake. So they asked him to do it, and then he left the company, which is why, everybody thought this is a big, just to go into our point, everybody's got to jump to conclusions and say why they, it's so funny. We live in a time where things happen, and before answers come out, everybody has to say what they think the answer is and why this happened.
And then if information comes out that contradict what they think their answer was,
cover up.
It's harder for, they won't believe it. They'll say, no, I don't think that's true. It's more believable what I think has happened. People can't be moved off of their original opinions about stuff. So that's good way to lean us into this episode, I guess. Huh?
Yeah, I don't know enough about all this stuff. Obviously,
I don't know any details
either.
Good,
but I also just try to refrain away from saying anything cliche.
Yeah.
Oh,
thoughts and prayers.
It's just.
But once again, bringing it up wasn't so much to talk about the details of these fires. It was to more or less address the difference in empathy that you see with these fires as opposed to what you see with other natural disasters. I just, pointing out those differences and how people are reacting to it is all that I was really trying to talk about. And I think we did that. So moving along, we talked about college football playoffs last week, and we had ourselves some semifinal games over the weekend. The first game of that weekend was Notre Dame and Penn State.
That was a good game.
It was a good game. Yeah, I thought it was a good game.
Penn State went up 10.
what did you think at halftime? Did you think that Penn State was feeling pretty good about themselves?
So I was at the Blues game that night, so I did not get to watch.
Yeah, okay.
I was just kind of following along on my phone as the Blues were beating the brakes off the Anaheim Ducks.
Mm-hmm. Well, I got to watch that game, and yeah, it seemed as though coming out of halftime, Penn State was feeling really good about themselves, and Notre Dame was really motivated to flip that script. So they pulled it out, and so we'll have Notre Dame in the final, and they'll be taking on the Ohio State,
which
after taking down Texas.
I still think it's interesting because even if Ohio State wins and beats Notre Dame for the national title, it's going to be one of the most, like, not an asterisk, but you lost to Michigan.
Yeah, and then if Notre Dame wins, they lost to Northern Illinois.
And that don't matter.
Oh, that don't matter, but losing into Michigan, that is still
the biggest rivalry in sports.
It is, but that doesn't matter if you still go, the distance and you make it through your playoff.
I think it does.
I disagree.
Because Michigan fans are just going to say, we still beat you.
Yeah, and that's going to get under Ohio State's fans' skin. And
that's what I'm saying. You think Notre Dame's going to care if they win and people are like, well, you lost to NIU?
No, they won't
or whatever
care.
It was.
They'll say no because we went undefeated from that moment on.
Yeah.
And then Ohio State could say the same thing, but they won't because they're all a bunch of fragile eagle motherfuckers.
Like in the long run, you look back on this national title, like Michigan still beat Ohio State for the 4th straight year.
I mean, that'll be remembered from this season, but I don't think that it really matters so much, and you'll still say Ohio State won a national championship.
But I think Notre Dame wins. I predicted this national title last week. I think you did too. And I said I think the reason Ohio State's going to lose this game is because Ryan Day crumbles in big moments. He cannot win the big one. He's proven that time and time again. He's never beat Michigan, which goes into this. And I think
that will be the story if Ohio State does lose this game, is everybody will talk about, well, we knew it was coming.
He'll be fired.
You think he'll be fired if he loses the national championship?
I do. I think he'll be fired because you go in and you have not beat Michigan in your 4 years there. Every time, like they have by far the most talented, maybe not by far, but they have the most talented roster in all of college football.
Right.
And like there's no excuses. Like really, there's no excuses for any of their losses. They should have been undefeated, but I think Ryan Day becomes a
mental midget.
I didn't know if we were going that route, but
yeah,
he is.
We're not PC around here.
He's just I can't stand him. He's jumping in his players' arms like.
That's your favorite thing. I remember you loved it when Robert Saleh came at Aaron Rodgers and wanted to hug him and jump into him.
Like, God, such a fucking loser, dude.
Yeah.
Like, if you want to be a leader of people,
There you go. Maybe we are a PC show.
Well, if you're going to be a leader of people, you got to act like you got to carry yourself like you expect it. You expect greatness.
Right.
You expect to win.
Yeah,
and don't be
surprised.
jumping around like a little Nancy.
Little Nancy boy, you love to dance around when you get your victories.
I can't stand Ryan Day.
Yeah.
And I never thought I'd say this, but I want Notre Dame to win. And I've always kind of rooted for Ohio State. I love a lot of their players.
You were big into the Ohio State when Zeke was there.
But I just can't stand Ryan Day. I want him gone. I think Marcus Freeman, on the other hand, is a very likable coach.
He's a very likable guy.
And
do you think that's where a lot of people are drawing their lines with who the team they're going to ride with for this national championship?
That's what I'm doing.
Is based on the head coach's likability?
So, yeah, maybe, because that's where my thought process is.
Yeah.
It's like,
I think a lot of people are falling in line with that. They're going off of their likability of the head coach.
Well, if your team's not in it, I think in college football, like the face of the organization is the head coach.
Yeah, it has to be because players change every year.
Where in the NFL, it's usually quarterbacks, can we say?
Yeah, it's typically, yeah.
Steelers are the exception. I do think Mike Tomlin is probably the face of the Steelers franchise.
Yeah, and that's partially because of his tenure there. He's been there for so long at this point.
I mean, hell, dude. They've had 3 coaches in 60s
or something, right? Yeah. They're known for riding with their guys. And it's played off to be, successful for the most part as a business model and as a plan for the team, right? Like, Pittsburgh has always been one of those teams year in and year out. You're like, yeah, they could be dangerous. Or, they're going to be competitive, maybe not like elite dangerous. There's been a lot fewer years that you've been like, oh, Steelers are actually, a really dangerous team. But they're usually, a team that you're like, oh, they could win. You wouldn't be surprised if they won something, They fell off at the end of the year this year, so that's whatever. But no, I'd agree. I think head coaches in college are the face of the program and what people kind of like view as their feelings on a team, especially when it comes down to games like these playoff ones. And you've kind of, especially this season where, this will be our fourth game of watching Notre Dame in like a postseason environment, right? So we've all kind of been riding with Notre Dame for a month, and each game you kind of learn a little bit more about the team and about Marcus Freeman.
I think it's funny that he had to convert to Catholicism like before in like 2022 before he got the job. I thought that was kind of funny.
Yeah, I mean, what do you expect? He's working for a nice Catholic university. They can't just have some heathen in there coaching their football team.
I just think it's a little cultish, but let's not open.
That's like if you went and coached for BYU and you were trying to be like, no, I only want one wife. I don't think they'll let that.
And I've wondered that too, because I don't know too much about the Mormon religion. Is that just like, I know that is a thing, but is that the common practice in the Mormon religion?
To have multiple wives?
Or is that just like something we've just attached to them?
I mean, I know that it's like you can do it. I don't know if it's like a tenet, like you have to have multiple wives. We're gonna have our producer Tony look this up real quick. So if you want to keep elaborating about,
well, I think my prediction will be 24-20 Notre Dame over Ohio State. I think when you look at the whole Michigan game, Ohio State's juggernaut offense just kind of forgot where they were, and I think a similar thing will happen in this game. Now, I will not be shocked if Ohio State. I mean, they should beat the brakes off of Notre Dame. I just don't think Ryan Day has the capability to coach in big games. I think he gets.
Do you think they should beat the brakes off them just because of their talent,
at
wide receiver, among other places?
Everywhere.
Yeah.
I mean, just top to bottom, Ohio State is.
Yeah.
I mean, they killed Oregon.
Right.
They ran through Oregon like it was nothing.
Yeah.
So, you found anything?
So it's just not all Mormons are multiple wives. The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints strictly prohibits polygamy. But I guess there's some sects, parts of the Mormon religion that you can have multiple wives. I don't know. I'm not trying to get into this rabbit hole too much.
I think that we kind of misunderstand the Mormon religion a little bit. I think that's been kind of attached to them where it's not. It'd be like the same thing of saying like, oh, all Catholics are pedophiles. It says
the main LDS Church does not practice polygamy, but the main church has also never denounced polygamy in the afterlife, which has always been taught. Mormons believe that when you get married, you are sealed to your spouse for time and eternity. Sealed. You're sealed to your spouse. I don't know, dude.
See?
Is it see?
How do we even get on this? BYU?
Yeah, we were talking about if you were going to coach a team, you got to believe in the views of that school. At least to a point. I'm sure that but
if you're making somebody do that, do they truly believe that?
That's the question. Maybe they asked him if he wanted to be Catholic before hiring him. He said, yeah, I want to do that.
Go ahead. Well,
so you got, I think I'm agreeing, so I want to see Notre Dame win, but Ohio State probably is the stronger team going into it. But I also agree that Ryan Day just kind of doesn't have it.
Well, I'm not picking Notre Dame over Ohio State because I think
Notre Dame's
better.
More free rolling, if anything. Like Ohio State feels the pressure of like we have to win this national championship.
That's when they collapse.
I know. That's what I'm trying to get to. Is like I think that it's going to kind of turn out that way. So I'm going to say Notre Dame wins 27-21. Yeah, that's my pick.
I had 24-20.
All right, so we will revisit that when we come back to our next episode, I suppose.
Well, we were talking about maybe doing the episode during it.
Yeah, we were talking about that, Stu. So, yeah, we were talking about maybe getting together on Monday night while the game's going on and doing a little sit, talk, listen during the national championship. So if you guys are interested in hearing us do that, make sure to let us know.
We did that for Game
NHL.
7 of the Stanley Cup playoffs.
Yes, sir. We were here. We were live reacting. So that was entertaining. We could do that. We could definitely do that. What time does that game kick off? Any idea? Producer Tony?
Yes, 7:15 Central Time.
I think it might actually be 6:30.
6:30
Well, that's
Central
what they'll
Time.
write. That's what they'll put. Because it'll put 6:30, but the game probably won't start till 7:15 because they got to do all the pregame BS. You know what? I can't stand is the amount of time they spend on coin tosses sometimes. Sure, it's only like 3 to 5 minutes, but that feels excessive. Like, I don't need the Capital One guy standing there telling me about yada, 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 and then the ref showing me both sides of the coin. I don't need that.
It's a pageantry.
Yeah, but I don't need it. I don't want it. Who wants it? The people that bet on the coin flip, are they the ones that want the pageantry?
I don't even necessarily know that. You know, I think those are just gambling addicts if you're betting on the coin flip.
Yeah, well, unless you're, everybody bets on that kind of stuff during the Super Bowl. You don't call those people gambling addicts. Not as much.
Why would I like to bet? And I've never bet on that. Or the color of Gatorade that's going to be poured on the coach. That's another popular prop bet.
You don't like a good prop bet? Is that what I'm hearing?
Like player prop bet. It's like first touchdown score. That has something to do with the game.
Mm-hmm.
But like, length of national anthem. That's another one.
I like that one, personally.
I mean, it's entertaining, but I'm saying betting on it.
I wouldn't actually bet on it. I don't bet on anything.
I do like it. I like all these things to see. I like the painful bets that you see. Oh, this person just lost $75,000 because it was tails.
The bad beats.
Oh, she held that note a little too long there at the end and cost all the under bettors.
Yeah, that's entertaining. So why don't we go ahead and get into the NFL playoffs now? We kind of talked about college.
Yeah, well, I think it was kind of... I mean, there's only really one good game of the NFL playoffs this week, and that was Tampa Bay, Washington. Yeah. Can we agree on that?
I agree. I thought a lot of the other games were kind of disappointments in the entertainment factor. But they relatively shook out the way we thought they would. I think the most surprising one... I don't even know if I could call it surprising. Somewhat surprising one was the L.A. and Minnesota game. I think more people expected Minnesota to put up more of a fight. But in the same time, if you were watching Minnesota in the chance to clinch a bye against Detroit, while Detroit's dealing with all these injuries, and they just completely laid an egg.
They looked more like the Minnesota I predicted to win 4 games this year than the Minnesota I predicted to go to the Super Bowl, which, to full transparency, my heart wasn't fully in that bet. I was, first of all, rooting for my brother, who's a big Vikings fan, always has been, and also trying to make right of the wrong, where I did predict him to win 4 wins. But, their O-line and Sam Darnold certainly looked more like what people thought they would look like coming into the season than the team that won 14 games this year. I mean, that was frustrating to watch. There was nothing.
It was just terrible. I couldn't believe how bad they were playing, honestly.
And the Commanders, Jaden Daniels, man, he is.
Yeah, he's
looked
good. I was a fan of that game. I'm glad that Washington won. I don't hate shaky bakey. It was a doink, but the guy had been solid all day, and he doinked it in.
He did.
But I think I was happy to see them win. Let's see, what other games were there? None of the other ones, were intriguing.
Philadelphia, Green Bay,
right? So let's get into that one. Philadelphia, Green Bay. Philly wins.
Blowout.
The stories in the news to come out of the game.
Before we go to there, though,
okay.
Speaking of over-unders, Saquon had a chance to break a huge touchdown off, and he slid down at the end, which made a lot of Saquon Barkley touchdown bettors furious.
Yeah, but it's not about them. It's not about the bettors. It's about what's best for the moment of the game, and he knew that he had, it was a breakaway thing, so why not just run out the clock? Why run all the way to the end zone and have a chance of hurting yourself, even if it's a very small chance? Yeah, sorry.
That's what he said. He said he didn't want to risk pulling his hammy or somebody chasing him and pulling their hammy.
There's all those different options. It's like, if it's sealed up and that's all it's going to take, do the smart thing. You don't need to score a touchdown and make Johnny Q Public happy They had all game to get an anytime touchdown from him. Why weren't they mad earlier in the game when he didn't get a ball to score a touchdown? You know what I mean? Like, they could point at anything. Like, just because it could have happened doesn't mean that it was supposed to happen. So, sorry. That's what you get for betting anytime touchdowns.
If I bet Saquon anytime touchdown, and that was all I needed, I would probably be pretty pissed.
Yeah, I get it. But that's the fun of gambling, is it's not about your bet. It's about what's best for the moment of the game. And that moment of the game, it wasn't best to run a long touchdown in. Very rarely is that usually the best play, but in that moment, I agree. That was the right play. No problems. I got no problems with it.
But Saquon touchdown bettors weren't the only people unhappy.
Was there probably an over-under bet, too, that would have been moved?
Yeah, well, over and under half a touchdown. But, yeah, there's probably some people who took, like, Saquon over 150 yards,
No, I meant you were... Oh, I stepped all on this transition.
Yeah, you did.
That's all right.
You did. But
besides Saquon bettors not being happy, there was some fans unruliness happening at that game, too. I think a lot of people have heard about this or seen these videos by now, but there was two Packers fans. I'm sure there was more than two Packers fans at the game, but there was two Packers fans that became known from a viral moment that come out of the stands from the Philly game, where a older, middle-aged kind of gentleman gets into it with these Packers fans. And I guess, I'm just doing a little reading on this story. There was nice banter back and forth for most of the game, and as the game went on, it was starting to escalate, to which, the guy called this chick ugly, and that, he learned how to have good manners in third grade, and then the girl responded that he should probably go back to the third grade because he didn't learn good manners, and blah, 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 back and forth. Well, this all, concludes essentially with the guy being videoed calling this woman an ugly
cunt.
C-U-N-T.
He called her an ugly cunt.
It's true. And if we were in England, nobody would probably think twice of this because they love throwing the cunt word out there just regularly. But the fact is, it's a pretty cutting insult in the American society. If you call a woman a cunt, she is not going to be happy.
It's just words.
Sure, just
not
words.
A good look. I'm not defending this guy, but
sounds like
it's like
you are.
No. I'm just saying that you're just getting so offended by somebody's words.
Hey, that's kind of the deal. You're allowed to say anything you want, but also you have the repercussions of saying anything you want. So if you're going to throw insulting words out at people, then you got to deal with those repercussions of using those words. And so this gentleman is now going to face those repercussions, and those are he's been banned from Lincoln Financial Field, so he will not be attending any more playoff games for the Eagles. And on top of that, he was fired by his employer.
Which was a good job. I think he worked for a law firm.
Some sort of company that he was a project manager for a company. But you can't be mad at the business necessarily, because unfortunately, anytime you're employed by anybody, you're kind of a representative of the values of that company. Because say this guy is allowed to just continue to work there, that means people perceive that employer of employing somebody that, likes to use hateful speech. So you're just kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't. So it's much easier for a company to cut ties from that type of situation than it would be to fight against it. And it's the right thing to do, I'd say. You want to make sure that you have people working for you that you can trust their ability to act responsibly in public.
Well, now there's a lot of public backlash, which you were kind of, to your point earlier of saying that everybody's got to be blaming someone. And
yes,
because now the pushback is, well, this guy was the guy recording him.
Yeah, the Packers fan.
The Packers fan who was recording the guy yelling at his fiance. Now they're all saying, well, he was provoking him for content, which there's really no proof of. And if the company that fired this guy who called her a dumb cunt or whatever he called her, now you'd think after the investigation, like maybe his company would have looked to see what caused this before they decided to part ways with him.
Mm-hmm.
So also, it's Philly, dude. It's like Philly. Yeah, this is a good opportunity.
Let's call it like it is.
We try not to make blanket statements, but it's like, by God,
Philly fans generally are trash.
I mean,
and that's true. There's nobody that's going to argue with us there. So I think we got to really break it down and ask the important question is, what the hell is so fucking wrong with Philly? Why is everybody so angry all the time? Why do they have such an inferiority complex?
I think it was because they're like, New York's little brother.
They feel lesser than Boston too?
I don't know. I think they really want to prove how northeastern they are, but like they're kind of caught, like they're not New York.
No, but they want to feel like they are, so they just always have this inferiority complex.
People will say that about us in Chicago. I know, let it rain down, but
that's fine. We're not worried about Chicago anymore. We're just trying to keep up with Kansas City.
Fuck. It's like we fell over one of the hurdles, and now everybody's like, it's like the 1,600 meters, and we're on lap 2 now.
We fell into the water.
We got off hot out of the gates. In the early 1900s,
so some thought we were going to be one of the
first off the
biggest
blocks.
cities in the world.
We were. Not only did they think we were.
No, I know.
But anyways, not to
talk about the downfall of St. Louis. Let's focus on how shitty Philly is.
My sister's husband is from Philadelphia, and I think I've told him from the beginning that Phillies fans are just trash. I think he kind of like lives up to that when he's. I mean, dude, He come. My mom's not much of a trash talker, and he'll just be sitting there just banter. And I'm like, hey,
you like that?
I tell my sister, like, this is the kind, if you're gonna embrace all these Philadelphia sports, including the Eagles, you just got to know that people hate you. You are trash.
Yeah.
And but I think Philadelphia fans like that. I think they embrace it.
That attitude.
I think her husband embraces that. Like he's Philly trash, and that's what it is. Now.
And then they just, I agree. They do embrace it. And that kind of makes them like always more dangerous. They want to outdo each other on how crazy they'll be or how outlandish, I don't know. It just seems like these kind of stories always involve Philly fans somehow.
Yeah, my dad, I was telling you, he sent me this post that said, I got a show idea. How about we have trained MMA fighters dressed as like opposing teams and go into what was it, Financial Quest Life or whatever?
Yeah, Lincoln Financial Field or something.
Yeah, I think that'd be awesome.
That'd be pretty good. Yeah, let's absolutely do that. We'll get some undercover boxers or MMA fighters and dress them up in the opposing garb and put them in Philly. And let's just see what happens.
Take out the trash one fucking Philly fan at a time.
That'd be pretty good. That'd be entertaining. That's high quality entertainment right there, brother.
Yeah, and nothing would get the Philly fans more up in arms. But they probably would actually. They're so delusional. They probably think they could. Oh, bring on the MMA fighters.
There ain't nothing, brother. Once you get a bunch of us Southies together, we're gonna fuck them up. I don't know. Is Southeast a Boston thing? I don't know. I'm so out of touch with the East Coast.
Northeast is just all scumbags. Let's be honest.
Yeah, everybody wants to shit on people from L.A. thinking they're superior. I think the people from the Northeast have the same exact complex.
I get it. We are making blatant statements, which we speak out against all the time. But by God,
let's just call it like we see it. What's more likely than not? You're going to find a scumbag Philly fan or not going to find a scumbag Philly fan? You're going to find one more likely than not.
Dude, Philly is just their sports fandom. They're just a bunch of fucking assholes.
Yeah, they can. I don't know which would you rather see for a sports city be in just let's say 10 years of just purgatory. All their teams are garbage. Would you rather it be Philly?
Well, New York already has that.
Oh, New York taking them shots.
I mean, they do. Gosh.
The Yankees were competitive last year, weren't they?
Yeah,
and you got the Mets that are spending money. They're not totally, in purgatory.
I think the Jets are just paying for it all in one. One fell swoop.
I'm trying to decide if I wanted to see Philly fans suffer more or Boston fans. I mean, I don't know, dude. Boston fans are pretty unsufferable, and they've had a lot of success.
Well, I think the Boston fans became unsufferable because of their success. I think they are a victim of their own success. I think that just happens naturally in human psychology.
Yeah.
You win so much. I feel like Philly is more of an entitlement thing. I feel like Boston before the Patriots and the Red Sox success weren't as insufferable. If anything, they kind of were they were suffering.
Yeah, they were sufferable.
So I think if you take a bunch of starved people and then you take them to a buffet, they're not going to know how to act. Like,
That's good sense.
with Philly, it's just, I don't know.
They're just not good people. Like I said, and that goes back to
their fucking
breaking down their
monument has a big crack in it. They can't keep anything fucking nice in Philly, dude. They're the
Nothing's
worst.
good.
I root for the downfall of all Philly teams.
There you go. Heard it here first.
But it sucks because I like a lot of players on the Eagles.
I like Saquon. I do like
AJ
Saquon.
Brown and
AJ Brown was reading a book during the game.
yeah, but evidently he always reads that.
That's what they're saying. I don't know.
I personally do think. Well, here we are now. We're being speculative.
Let's do it. That's what we should do.
But we just got mad at people for being speculative.
Only when it's trying to cause ill harm.
But I think that AJ Brown only having one catch, and now all of a sudden he's reading a book. You would think that if he was reading a book after like a 150-yard game, they'd still show it. And they'd be like, "This is interesting. This guy's just reading a book." I think there's something to there.
You got to think there's been people that'll go back and look at some of these past games and be like, I haven't seen him whip out a book one time. Maybe he just, since he was having a tough game, he needed to pull out that book and give himself some motivation.
Do you think there's a lot of turmoil going on in Philly? Like, obviously, it's not affecting them. They beat the shit.
Yeah.
But,
I don't know.
Commanders coming in with a lot of, Commanders coming in with a lot of momentum.
Isn't it going to be LA
those
versus
Commanders
Philly?
Lions. It is LA Philly. Oh God.
Yeah. So there's some people that have speculated that the Rams only won because the league's trying to get the team with the LA Fires and that storyline to go far in the playoffs. I don't buy that, but the Rams are playing with some vinegar, some vigor right now.
Yeah, but you could say they're when there is smoke, there's LA.
So you got LA and Philly playing each other. I hope Philly wins this game. As much as I just talk shit on all these Philly fans, I'm a bitter old Rams fan, and I wish nothing but the worst for them.
No, I say you string out them Rams fans even longer, and then
what does that mean?
No, they don't get their hopes up even more.
No, I think their hopes are already far along.
Big
I wish
dick
nothing but the worst
swinging
for them.
Dan Campbell comes to town.
Yeah, and wrecks it for him. That's fine. I'd rather
he will.
I know, but I'd rather the big dick Dan Campbell wreck it for the Phillies. Like that'd be more entertaining to me.
Now let's cover now that Vikings are out of the playoffs, and my real pick would have been Detroit in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
I mean, I know I picked Minnesota, but really though, Baltimore, Detroit would be.
That'd be my ideal.
I mean, gosh, the entertainment.
Both those teams are teams that I've wanted to see win with the players they have on the roster currently.
Because Baltimore, there is a difference. Because Baltimore, you've seen success from there.
Right, but I haven't seen him win with Lamar. I do want this for Lamar and King Henry. But I also really like the Detroit storyline, and I love, they've been down pretty much our entire lives. Like we've always thought of Detroit as a doormat team, and for them to be able to build what they've built the last few years is pretty awesome to see. So I wish them nothing but the best. Washington Commanders a little bit in that same boat. Like they've been a little bit suffering here the last few years, but they just come from such a bad background too, with a terrible owner before.
But he's not there anymore.
I know.
The bad man's gone. But I kind of see the Commanders as we did Detroit maybe last year, where you're happy for them and their success is coming, but I think they're still a year away.
Yeah.
But they definitely, you could see they have the pieces with Jaden Daniels, and it seems like just a whole new vibe, and they're building a new stadium, and the new ownership seems,
they're reinvigorated as an organization big time.
So, but it's not their moment yet.
Right. I'd like to see Detroit and Baltimore in the Super Bowl.
And
do you think the Texans give Kansas? No, I just cut you off. Sorry. No, you think Texans give Kansas City any kind of trouble? Do you think Kansas City just handles it easily?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
I think that, I've said it on here. People are questioning, poking holes at Kansas City, but we've seen this with New England every year. People wanted to claim their reign to be done. People wanted to claim that Tom Brady was too old. And this was, 10 years into there?
Yeah, we've seen that storyline play out.
It's like...
But I do think what's a little different here now is you look at kind of Kansas City, how they've been going for the last 3 weeks, it's almost going to be 20-something days before some of their starters have played because they rested those guys during that last game. And then they had a bye.
And you saw how it worked in college football. Granted, these are professionals.
But it's so hard to try to replicate game speed and to be out of the game for 3 weeks, and then you have to jump into a game time, speeds and situations. Obviously, Kansas City's got experience in playoff games and in these types of games. But I do think it's something to be mindful of and take into consideration that they might be a little not so sharp when they start this game.
Luckily for Kansas City, and I'm sure a lot of people out here say this is also conspiracy, but they get to come back to play Houston before they go on to play Buffalo or Baltimore.
Right.
Buffalo, Baltimore, the fact that this isn't even in a championship game is just crazy.
That's going to be a hell of a matchup.
Because you could see either one of these two teams winning the Super Bowl, and you wouldn't be surprised, I don't think.
And that's Baltimore is at Buffalo for that one, yeah? Looks like. Buffalo's the higher seed.
But Baltimore's got a couple of bad motherfuckers.
That'll be a good game. That will be a good game. What color jerseys are they wearing? You got Buffalo in their blues.
I think in Baltimore
in their whites and the black pants. Purple helmet, black helmets, purple pants. White jerseys, purple pants?
I don't know. They have a lot of options.
That's why I'm asking. It's a good matchup.
I think they'll go probably black pants, purple stripe down the side, white jerseys, purple numbers, black helmet.
Okay, I like it. While we're on the costume discussion, I didn't even talk about the college football uniform situation. The Notre Dame Penn State game, everybody was kind of feeling that matchup because of the uniforms being such classic uniforms. Any thoughts or feelings on that situation?
Yeah, I like tradition. I think that one team can get away with it, and that's Oregon. But that's kind of Oregon's thing. They've had
the changing up of the wild uniforms and stuff.
Yeah, and then everybody wanted to be Oregon, but it's let that be Oregon's thing. I don't think it's a problem when Oregon does it. All the uniform changes, but then everybody wanted to become that.
Right.
I like the traditional, the Texas Longhorns, your Penn State, your Notre Dame, your Bama.
Do you like? Let's just stay with college. Do you like college teams to have names on the back or not names on the back?
Yeah, I like them to have names on the back.
Wow.
Those names are making the university tons of fucking money.
It's true. That's true.
I don't know what kind of swindler got in there and said you play for the names on the front, not the back. Well, those
that's been tradition. That's the mantra for years ago. That's why the Yankees still have it with no names.
Well, then here I'll tell you this, Alabama. See how much money you get if you it's about the name on the front.
Yeah.
Go outside. The first 100 guys you see that want to play, bring them out there, and don't put their names on the back and say, "Well, it's about the name on the front." See how well those average Joes do.
Yeah, it's not
and
about the guy.
Why do they spend so much time recruiting if it's not about the player?
Yep, and they can't even put the name on the back of the jersey.
I think they do now.
Alabama?
I think so.
Can't verify here on that one. We'll just leave that one up for the Arizona
But I always
Missions.
thought that was just some kind of brainwashing thing. You play for the name on the front.
Yeah. You don't think it's a nice tradition that some of these old school schools hold?
Yeah, I just think don't give the coach a paycheck then. You're coaching for the pride, the prestige of that university, not a paycheck.
All those players shouldn't be allowed NIL because they're playing for the prestige of the university.
That's what I'm saying.
Not the name on the back.
It's just double standard. That's my thought on that. Put your name on the back because I think there's something cool to it, like players, parents and stuff, it's like they get to see, maybe they were the ones taking these kids to practice after practice and sacrificing a lot. And they get to see their family name on a big stage, on a big TV. That's cool.
Yeah, for sure.
That's cool for them, man. There is a lot of pride. There's a lot of pride to a name too. That's not even monetary.
That's your life story is built into your name. You wouldn't be here without that last name.
So it's that's what I'm saying. It's kind of like a brainwashing thing. These billion-dollar or multi-million-dollar schools try to convince you that you're nothing without us.
It's just the old school kind of way of looking at it. I'd agree though. I think they should allow players to have the names on the back of the uniforms. But I do like how clean those jerseys look. Minimal helmets, styling.
I like the minimalistic. Yeah,
it's just strong, bold color, not like all these intermixed colors. Yeah.
I think Notre Dame. I don't think they have last names on the back.
No, they don't.
And it does look
Penn
cleaner.
State, Notre Dame didn't have any no names, and mostly clean helmet. You know, Penn State's got the one stripe, but just a white helmet outside of that.
And it does look cleaner, but I just think it's like it's not really fair to
the players that work hard to be in that spot.
Give the player their last name.
Yeah, give them a little bit of recognition.
You know, how cool, how many times do you think a grandpa has just seen, like, that's my grandson? They may be playing for a team that he, you know, grew up loving, and that's the reason that his grandson picked that school in the first place. And they get, like, you know, there's probably moments like that happen.
Yeah. No, I'd agree.
But, I you know, here I am saying that they look cleaner without the last name, so.
Well, that's because we're looking at it full picture. We can appreciate some things of it while also pointing out why it's not good in other ways, right? You can look at things. You don't have to be 100% on one side or the other.
Yeah.
Both can be true. You could still have a clean uniform and have a minimalist name on the back, just nice block letters. It doesn't have to be
What are your favorite
gaudy
uniforms in college football? Did we do this already?
No, we haven't done this. Golly, we're gonna get down some good rabbit hole here. Favorite uniforms in college football. Favorite uniforms. It's tough because I do like the classic. I think Texas is high for me. Like
Me too.
As soon as you see that color,
That
you
burnt orange.
automatically think of the school. There's no doubt about that. So it's not, you know, it's not just like the way the uniforms look. It's their color scheme in general. That burnt orange and
on the white
and white is clean, and that's a million times better than like Tennessee's orange and white. That creamsicle orange, I'm just not a fan of that orange so much. You know.
Yeah, it's a lot. I don't dislike them, but I think we have the same favorite college uniforms. Mine is, I was going to say Texas.
Yeah.
And then I would say Ohio State.
Ohio State's good. I really like USC's. That orange and yellow and the Trojan like logo. Yeah, that's a classic clean uniform that I'm a fan of. I just like the color combinations of that, and they do it much better than Arizona State does it with those colors.
And Notre Dame. I think Notre Dame has some outstanding uniforms.
Yeah,
that gold
I love the
helmet.
gold helmet. That's probably my favorite helmet in college football for sure.
It pops on the navy blue jerseys. Yeah. It's kind of like you said, minimalistic.
Yeah. Even when they do white with the gold pants, it's like the gold helmet still just stands out, and you know right away you're looking at a Notre Dame football team.
Yeah, man, there's something to it.
Yeah.
Maybe we're getting old.
We're getting old.
Are you getting old when you just start appreciating stuff like Notre Dame's uniform and helmets?
Maybe. This is one
Growing
step.
up, did you think that?
It's hard to recall my uniform opinions from when I was young. I think it's pretty similar. I think that I also enjoyed Notre Dame's helmet when I was younger too.
Best uniforms in NFL.
Baltimore.
Yeah. Damn, see, we have the favorite in both. The black on black.
Yeah. And then the purple thrown in, like that's clean.
That's my favorite color.
Big upgrades from like the purple that you see with Minnesota's uniforms.
And they even look cool. The Ravens also have excellent uniforms when they go purple jersey.
Yeah, no, I agree. Ravens are up there. Beep, 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 beep.
I hate this team, but
49ers, I enjoy their uniforms a lot. It's kind of the same kind of vibes like USC. You know, you got that prospect colors of orange and gold and yellow.
No, they do have those are classics. But I do hate this team. But
you're going to say the Cowboys, aren't you?
No, I don't hate the Cowboys. They're just a Cowboys.
I hate Jerry Jones, so
but,
by default,
but the Buffalo blue jerseys are pretty sharp looking. The red, the blue, and the red.
I like the red. It does make for a nice pop out.
Yeah, so
Buffalo's okay. I wouldn't pick them on my list, but I understand why you'd pick them. They're pretty good.
I'm just going through the Rolodex of Raiders. The Raiders have classic.
There's a classic. I do. That silver and black is what makes it so much cooler than if it was just to be like black and white or something. You know, that silver really makes it stand out.
Yeah, like if you go black jersey on the silver pants, like in the silver helmet, that pops, dude.
That does. And one of those, instantaneously is Raiders, like just because of the colors.
And I think it's something too, their whole brand. Like you just assume like the Raiders, like no matter what decade, what team it is,
they're a
what
bunch of
player
dogs.
Dude, like it's just like a Raider kind of way.
Yeah. I wonder why that is. Where did that mindset come from with Raider Nation? Al Davis was just being a bunch of dogs.
He was the owner, and he said, and like so John Gruden came and talked about it on a recent interview actually, and he said that Al Davis said sometimes he just like to look at a player and say like that's a Raider, like he He didn't.
The Raiders.
Yeah, he just had a certain thing in mind, a certain style, some dogs, athleticism, just you know. So I think that's where you can build the brand. And obviously, his son is now the owner there, and so there is probably a real reason why that seems to be. Like you look at Max Crosby, he just seems like a Raider.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. I'm sure there's some other NFL teams that. I mean, there are obviously other NFL teams that have good uniforms, but none that like really stick out to me as my personal favorites outside of the ones that we've already mentioned. I don't know if you're thinking of anything that we've missed that are some of your favorites or whatever.
Yeah, like obviously certain things like play in my mind. Like I do like when the Jets wear the black uniforms. I think those are sharp.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's because I don't think it's because I'm a fan. I think those are just some sharp uniforms, like the black and on green.
Yeah,
is a pretty good look.
And there's other good ones, like I was just saying, but there's no
the Chargers
more that,
powder blue.
Yeah, those are good. But
played out maybe.
They don't stand above the ones that like Baltimore is just probably my favorites for sure, followed by the 49ers, and then when I try to think of another team that I like. Their uniforms just as much as I like those two teams' uniforms. I'm having a hard time of coming up with another one. There's a lot of other ones that are like a good B level team, like the Packers and
Steelers,
the Saints and the Steelers. Like I think those are all good uniforms, but I wouldn't put them as great, if that makes sense. Yeah. So there's a little side conversation about the uniforms. You know, did you know we were going to go there? I didn't. Surprise, surprise.
Well, yeah. So
anything else about the playoffs?
No, I just think that if we see Detroit versus Baltimore, or I really would hate it to be.
You just gotta get closer to the mic, my friend.
I would really hate it to be Buffalo or Kansas City, but I do think those would also make for really good Super Bowls versus Detroit. But I just really want to see Detroit, Baltimore.
Yep. And we'll be getting back together for another episode before the next round of playoffs. So we'll see how these games play out, and we'll be able to get together and have a little commentary about how they all play out. So now I guess we'll get into we talked about last week. We ranked some of our favorite. What did we Mount Rushmore last week? We Mount Rushmore.
We must Mount Rushmore the shit out of something.
That's true. Out of something. Well, regardless of what we decided to talk about last week.
Oh, my goodness.
We got into the wedding things. We were talking about wedding stuff.
Yeah.
What was your Mount Rushmore of wedding stuff? So that got us saying that we would get together this episode and kind of talk about our favorite guitar solos. And so to kind of preface this, like we didn't want to just kind of come together and put together a list of what we thought was consensus best guitar solos. We're not trying to have a list that we think everybody will agree with. I think our lists represent our personal tastes in the sense of like these are the guitar solos that came to our minds right away when we started thinking of guitar solos, and so by picking songs that are ingrained into us, we know that those are probably going to be songs that other people have the similar feelings about, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I'm all over the place. So when it came to this list, and it is something I was excited about, but at the same time, like my knowledge of rock and stuff has just when I got to a certain age, there's a good period of my time where I only was listening to rap music for the most part. And, now that's kind of veering off again. But anywho, going off the premise that you just laid out, I was just trying to go off of things that stuck out to my mind without thinking, without doing any research, because I think that plays a part of it. And
because these are our lists of the ones that are, to us, the most influential or stand out, not necessarily the songs that were, everybody would pick as the top guitar solos, because there's hundreds of those lists out there, and some of these songs could overlap and some might not.
So do you want to play the first one?
Yeah. So we'll start with Xavier's first choice. You were going to introduce it first, and then I'm going to play a little bit of these songs. So your first choice.
Yeah, so this choice, and it's not in any order, well, it kind of is, but This is Eruption by Van Halen. I think that, you can never go wrong with an Eddie Van Halen guitar solo. I think this is the one that stuck out the most in my mind. Like I said, just off the top of my head. And you give it a listen. Maybe you get...
Yeah.
So,
that's a pretty good first choice, I'd say, Xavier. Pretty safe with the Eruption. I think anybody who's ever picked up a guitar and has tried to play guitar is familiar with that piece of guitar work right there. It's pretty iconic.
And you'll see a pretty common pattern of mine. I have, I guess, quote unquote, chalk picks, but I think that things like that are chalk for a reason. It's like the staple of the song. You hear that, you don't have to be a huge rock and roll fan to know that, or even hear that to think like, why is this considered good? You just hear it, like that is some damn good guitar playing.
Yeah,
and
absolutely,
just the structure of it all. But go ahead, your pick.
So for my first one, I kind of decided to stretch back in time here, and I thought about the genesis of the guitar solo, almost, if you will. This was kind of one of those songs that put the guitar on the map as an instrument that people looked at as a soloing instrument. So for my first pick, I went with the Hometown Boy, Chuck Berry and Johnny B. Good. Yeah, so
that is a classic. And when you told me that was on your list, I was like, "Damn, that's a good one."
And it was revitalized because of its role in Back to the Future. That song got another lift because it was reintroduced to the pop culture zeitgeist again in the '80s with that movie. But you can't tell me as soon as you hear that lick, you don't know what song it is. I think everybody does.
It stands the test of time. I mean, it's still really good right now. What was that, in the 1950s?
Yep. And that song, once again, you hear it and you know right away what it is. That guitar lick, that. So that's probably going to be my number one pick. I mean, it is my number one pick. So, Xavier, what do you got?
These are not my number one picks. Like I said, I'm going in reverse order of how I would pick them. I would like to say this next pick is kind of a 2-for-1. Mm-hmm. And that is 2 from 1.
Hey.
And just listen.
So that's 1 from Metallica, and we're gonna look at it at both solos. There's 2 signature moments of this song.
And I couldn't decide. They're both so good, but in different ways. So that's why I chose to have both of them as my pick, because I really like both of them are so good in different ways.
Yeah. So let's see what those are about. So clean. That's just a little snippet from the beginning of the song.
So crisp. So and
then the song builds, and we get towards the end, here we go. And you get really into the heaviness. Here we go. Oh yeah, that's the good stuff. The harmonizing guitars. Yeah, I mean, that one, from Metallica fans, even people that aren't Metallica fans, usually that song stands out as some very memorable guitar solo work.
And that is Kirk Hammett.
Shouts out to the man.
Just wanted to give credit to the guy,
to the guy
doing it. It wasn't the whole band, per se.
Wasn't the whole band, per se. All right, so for my next selection, I went with one of my all-time favorite bands, Rush.
Wow.
And it's pretty, I'd say it's a pretty niche song from them. La Villa Stringata is the name of the song. I guess really what I'd like to point out more is this, for me, what I think is so great and memorable about this song and the guitar solo is is how the guitar solo builds and how it kind of conveys a message. It tells a story throughout the whole guitar solo. The whole guitar solo section is probably a minute and a half. And I'm not about to play that. We're only playing snippets from these songs to give you an idea.
So before you play that, I'll say, and I've probably heard this before, but I couldn't really think off the top of my head. But when you played the whole thing, I will agree it's a fantastic. It kind of builds throughout the whole thing. So I'd definitely say to go back and listen to this whole song if you're just hearing the snippet to get the full effect of the solo.
Yep.
This is Alex Young, correct?
Alex Lifeson.
Alex Lifeson. Who's Alex Young? Go ahead.
I don't know. You have Neil Young?
No, go ahead. Just play this.
So we're going to listen to a little bit of La Villa Stringata. Just these volume swells. Yeah, so that's just a little excerpt from that solo. But in some of my solos, I try to pick stuff that was a little different from the norm. That solo stands out because of the way that he used his volume knob to make those kind of swells of the notes in the beginning. So it's not just standard picking and playing. Sometimes people just assume that if they hear a guitar player playing as fast as they can, that's just automatically amazing. For me, I really like, a combination of that. So that solo, starts off real kind of slow and tasteful. And I just think that there's a lot of talent that goes into being able to play something that's tasteful and conveys a lot of message without using a lot of notes. It becomes more challenging. So back to you, Xavier.
So I definitely wanted something with Randy Rhoads on here, and I definitely think this song is the one that sticks out in my mind when I'm thinking of great guitar solos, just for me.
Mm-hmm.
And let's hear it. You should be familiar with it. That gets me hyped up.
Yeah, Randy Rhoads is a beast.
That's the good stuff.
Yep. And for that solo is great too. He does play a lot of notes in his fast, and I like it, but it moves in a way that is pleasing for the song. So I can forgive his awful guitar tones for the rest of the song. The way the guitar sounds just like a bunch of angry bees. We can forgive the way that it sounds because the playing is outstanding.
So you're not a fan?
I think the song is great, and I think that his guitar playing is outstanding. I think the tone of his guitar sucks. That could be the recording engineer's fault. You know what I mean? I don't know. Anything else you want to add about that song?
I think it speaks for itself, and I think that in a future list we'll also have a revisitation of that song with other lists that we've talked about. So I just think that song speaks for itself. There's a reason that is the face of Ozzy Osbourne. When you think of Ozzy Osbourne's solo career, there's a reason that song, and I think Randy Rhoads played a huge part in that song's success.
Yeah, I agree.
So that's all I got to say about that.
All I got to say about that. I'd say you said a lot. All right, so then for my next choice, some people, when they think of this song, my next song, might just think of the opening riff of the song. But I think that the guitar solo in the song is just as popular and as well known as the guitar riff of the song in general. And so for my choice, third, I went with Guns N' Roses' Sweet Child of Mine guitar solo. Let's see here a little bit of that.
Oh, yeah.
Just a little snippet. I think there's a lot of people that when they think of that song and they get to the guitar solo, they could hum along and kind of, do a lot of that guitar solo in their own mind, like if they were singing along with it. And to me, that's kind of a way to point out like a memorable guitar solo. If people could sing along with it in a way, right? Like it's so ingrained in their memories because it's catchy. All right, Xavier, you want to for your last one here on the Mount Rushmore of guitar solos according to us?
So this is the only one I went a little off chalk. Not a lot of people have heard this guitar solo, but I wanted to pick a little something that maybe not a lot of people think of when you hear guitar solos. So just play it.
All right, 1 second. We're gonna do the surprise song, Xavier's final choice. Here we go.
Come on now.
Yes. For those that might not be familiar, that was Freebird
By Leonard Skinner.
by Leonard Skinner. When you hear that solo, do you automatically think of the scene from Forrest Gump?
No, dude. I think when I hear that solo, dude, I just feel things. Like that's
You're like, this is why people write guitar solos.
That brings the white right out of me. I told you that before. Like, man,
That brings the white right out.
God dang, dude, I love that solo. And I think
It's a classic. It's absolutely a classic. I mean, that's probably why people yell Freebird at concerts.
It's chalk, but gosh, you heard that? Am I imagining things?
No. Definitely some outstanding guitar work, and yeah, usually will end up on most people's lists when they think of guitar solos. They're going to stand out.
There's a
That
reason
stands out.
why family members of mine may or may not wish that there was another plane that had a band in it that died rather than that band. And I think that's one of the prime examples of why you could think of other musicians
Top
you
tier
wish.
talent.
Now, you're not wishing death upon any of them.
Wish
just
death
if
upon
somebody
them.
had to die, other people could have instead of Leonard Skinner. And, and that's because we were cut short of any more fantastic moments like that.
Yep. Well said. And that was a band of incredible musicians. As a lot of those kind of like Southern rock and blues bands were, ZZ Top, Leonard Skinner, Stevie Ray Vaughan kind of cut from that same cloth, a
true.
lot of excellent
he didn't
guitar
make
work.
The cut, but he will be an honorable mention.
Honorable mention, Stevie Ray Vaughan. All right, so for my last choice, I try to think of something from the last 30 years, I guess, that stands out as a memorable guitar solo. So for my last choice, I went with Rage Against the Machine, Bulls on Parade. Yes. So
Very
there's a
unique.
Yeah, exactly. I think there's a lot of people that would argue that, that solo, he's not even playing any notes, man. Like, what are you talking about? How could that be a great solo? He's not even like playing anything. I think the use of the guitar in that way is what makes it such a memorable solo. He's like scratching on it like a record for a DJ almost, and it's rhythmic based and it 100% memorable. And so for me, that's really what made the list, really what I wanted to point out in the list is guitar solos that were memorable and unique. And so I think I accomplished that. So want to do a quick review. I had Johnny Be Good, La Villa Stringata by Rush, Sweet Child of Mine, Guns N' Roses, and Bulls on Parade, Rage Against the Machine. Xavier?
And I had Eruption, Van Halen. I had One by Metallica.
Rah!
Crazy Train by Ozzy Osbourne. And Freebird by Leonard Skinner, boy.
Yeah. So let us know what you think of our picks. Let us know how wrong you think we are, and all this and that and the other thing, and yell it from the mountaintops about how your list is better than ours.
Before we get into our honorable mentions, My dad sent us a list of 3 of his favorites, so I just thought I'd shout them out. And he took the time and put some thought into it. And again, while I appreciated it, I also was trying to go off a list based off just things that I've heard and listened.
Yeah, your own experiences.
And I have heard of 2 of these, but he had Suicide Solution live from the Blizzard of Oz tour. That was also by Randy Rhoads, the aforementioned, which is his number one, he says, all time. So
guitar player.
Go give that a listen. The Suicide Solution by Ozzy Osbourne. And obviously this one is probably would have been an honorable mention, even if my dad hadn't sent it in. That is the Star Spangled Banner played by Jimi Hendrix. One of your
That's a good one.
sworn enemies, but...
Oh, whoa. See, here we go again. Xavier putting words in my mouth. Jimi Hendrix isn't a sworn enemy.
Live at Woodstock.
I think Jimi Hendrix just gets a lot of hype.
Well, he was playing he's left-handed and he played a right-handed guitar backwards.
Yeah, a lot of people did that. Kurt Cobain did that.
Well, Kurt Cobain wasn't the guitar player that Jimi Hendrix was.
It's true. But I'm saying just because somebody does things to be different doesn't make them good.
Yeah, but if I was right-handed and throwing a baseball left-handed 100 miles per hour, you could say, well, I'm right-handed and I throw a baseball left-handed.
But if you were throwing your baseball that hand your whole life and you didn't know any different, is it really like, oh my God, that's amazing? Like Jimmy picked up a guitar and played it right-handed, played it upside down because that's how he taught himself.
You don't think he was a good guitar player?
I think he was a fine guitar player. I think he was good. I don't think he was like God's gift to guitar, like some people like to act.
Well, there you have it. And my dad also had Eruption, which I picked.
To me, Jimi Hendrix and Travis Barker can kind of live in the same universe of how I feel about them. Both talented in their own regards, but also held up like really high by their fans.
Kind of like Kurt Cobain, huh?
Yeah. Kind of like Kurt Cobain, too. He was held up high in the regards of his fan, too. That's an interesting thought. I had always wondered what would happen with Nirvana had Kurt Cobain never died. What kind of band would they be today? Would they still be a band? Would he be, you know what I mean? Like,
you know
all
what
those
I
questions.
think would happen if Kurt Cobain never died?
What?
We wouldn't get some of the classics that Foo Fighters has made.
Yeah, you're probably true of that. You don't know, but then again, maybe somewhere along the line, Kurt and Dave, collaborated on the writing for Nirvana more or less, and then you do kind of maybe get some of those songs, but we don't know, obviously.
I'm surprised AI hasn't done like Kurt Cobain singing.
I'm sure they could or have. All he needs is like a few seconds of audio to feed into it, and it can spit out, new versions of that voice.
Any more honorable mentions? I want to make it clear. My dad also did say Eruption because I kind of got glossed over, but I picked that, so we kind of glossed over that.
And we talked Stevie Ray Vaughan. That's another good one.
Pride and Joy.
Stevie Ray Vaughan.
We didn't have any Led Zeppelin, Jimmy Page on there.
Yeah, Stairway to Heaven was kind of discussed, and I think Stairway to Heaven is a great guitar song. But I think it's just that. The whole thing is a great guitar song. I don't think of Stairway to Heaven specifically because of the guitar solo. I think of the song as a whole, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? Not like just the guitar solo. Yeah, but I also wanted to mention, there's some great Boston songs that have a lot of great guitar work, or The Boys Are Back in Town by Thin Lizzy. That's a pretty excellent guitar solo. You got the sweet harmonizing guitars in the middle. That's a good one. It's what I was really trying to do also was focus on some more modern stuff that was released that have really good guitar solos, and it's more challenging to come up with anything more modern that has a solo that just sticks out to you,
Seems like all music in general, the more modern you get, the more watered down it seems to become.
Dross. As my British friend would like to say. One-time British friend.
Oh, breaking news.
It's nothing new. Everybody knows.
Yeah, and I'm sure there is a lot of people out there, like, Avenged Sevenfold, I'm sure has some great solos and this and that on there. Yeah. But I do think that if you look at all the songs that we picked, those reached mainstream popularity for a reason, and it's because of...
And we already talked about Van Halen and Eruption, but I also would like to give an honorable mention to Van Halen with his guitar solo in Beat It, right? I mean, everybody knew that was a Van Halen solo.
Michael Jackson.
But they knew it was Eddie Van Halen solo on the Michael Jackson song without even getting credit. Just because his sound is so recognizable, it was so undeniably Eddie Van Halen.
Which I read that Eddie Van Halen got his trademark style from a snippet of some Jimmy Page songs.
I don't know. There's a lot of people that like to claim that he took it from this and that, the other thing, but the fact is all musicians, are influenced by the people before them. So it's not like, people like to talk like, oh, he stole this from this and that. No, he might have been inspired by, but
that's what I'm saying.
He 100% blazed his own, sound
trail.
Yeah, he had a unique sound and a style that was different than other guitar players. So I don't know. I just think that people like to discredit others a lot and are always looking to
tear down, to build themselves up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, they just go rip guitar solos if it's that easy. Why don't you go rip guitar style? If it's that easy to become famous and very successful off it, why aren't you doing it?
Yeah. I'm just going to break out my...
Oh, he stole this from so-and-so. He stole this from so-and-so. No, it's art. It's
and you see the same thing in modern rap, right? Like, everybody's like, oh, he stole that flow from so-and-so. That was such and such's flow before.
Modern rap sucks.
I know. I mean, I get what you're saying. But I'm just pointing out that people are using the same narrative these days that they've always been using.
These days, I'm letting God handle all things above me.
So I feel pretty good about those lists.
Yeah. We got to think about next week's list still, with it being college. Ooh. Man, being a championship game, we're going to be doing it live. Maybe we should do a Mount Rushmore of championship games. Most memorable or playoff
like games that have actually happened, or just which ones each year you look
games that have actually happened.
Okay.
Don't have to be specific to football.
Yeah. All right. Well, that could be interesting. Well, I will have to definitely do a little bit of research.
We don't have to if you don't have that deep of a.
I mean, no, I could think of some off the top of my head. I'd have to do research to just remember like the year that it happened and the specifics of the scores of the games. Yeah, I think that could be a lot of fun. I just think it would be topical. Yeah, I think that'd be good. I think that would be fun.
I think one of them might be a college championship game.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm thinking of that one off the top of my head already too. So there's a good chance it could end up on the list. Should we hold that to close to the vest? All right, perfect. Well, before we get out of here, maybe we'll talk a second about the old TikTok is looking to potentially be banned from being able to be downloaded from in the U.S. here as of January 19th. They're talking that could come into effect. What do you think? Do you think we see TikTok be banned, or do you think they come up with a way to sell their U.S. Operations?
Well, who did you say was a potential buyer?
Yeah, so apparently they're talking about old buddy Elon. Elon Musk might be buying the U.S. operations of TikTok to be able to keep TikTok in America. So that would kind of be the old double-edged sword for a lot of fans of the TikTok.
A lot of the what?
Liberals of TikTok. Libby Rob.
You'd be in shambles.
I don't get on TikTok.
No, it would be interesting, though.
Do you think it gets banned, I guess is really what I'm asking.
No.
Do you think we get to the 19th and nothing changes and they
I don't think they'll ban it. But, they did ban Vine.
Yeah.
So it's like it wouldn't be the first time we've seen something. Now, I think TikTok's had a longer run than Vine for sure by now. And
if they were to ban it, do you think it's just like it'll be a matter of weeks before another rich person just puts another app out there that's essentially exactly like TikTok, but just a new name? They figure out a way they make the app themselves and have it be just like TikTok.
Yeah, I mean, why wouldn't they?
Right,
But will it be just as successful? Because you got to think branding and everything goes into this, because you can essentially do that with YouTube right now as well. But people aren't.
It does. But once the option of the original one goes away, people start looking for that other option more than if TikTok was always available, nobody would look for the alternative.
But when Vine went away, didn't somebody just instantly make something like Vine?
Well,
there wasn't.
It kind of did. TikTok rose up right after that, and Instagram Reels.
But it wasn't as successful. It wasn't as successful. There was never anything that was just like Vine that reached the heights that Vine did. I do think that there would definitely be interest in doing that, but I think something goes and dies with the brand.
Yeah. I mean, Snapchat kind of took over for Vine in a lot of ways.
Yeah, but
it was 2017, and it's actually kind of funny because it was January 17th of 2017 that Vine was shut down.
When did it start?
When did it start? 2020.
Do your goddamn show prep.
Well, this is news.
Well, yeah. So personally, I think that we all become victims of these phones and devices and all these things. Yeah. And it's like, I think one less
January
distraction.
2013, it started.
You can just mindlessly be scrolling on TikTok. Now, I do get it. There are people, and I think it can be a useful tool. There's a lot of people that want to see recipes. They'll look it up on TikTok, and they follow a recipe. But I certainly, where I stand. I think the less distractions and stuff.
Twitter had bought Vine and before its launch in 2012, so Twitter owned Vine for all those years, and then Vine faced competition from other platforms and then was shut down by Twitter in 2017. It wasn't like a legal reason.
Oh. I wonder why they did that.
Because their competition was doing it better than them. People were going to Snapchat and YouTube Shorts and Instagram stories, and those kind of things were all rolling out in 2016, 2015, and the popularity of Vine was just, decreasing a lot. So Twitter said, we're not going to pay to keep this platform. So they got rid of it. And then they sold it, Twitter, a few years after that.
Who bought that?
Oh, Elon again. What do you mean, who bought that?
That'd just be crazy. Questions. What if Elon buys Instagram next?
He'd be buying it from Facebook.
Facebook.
Yeah.
Meta.
So I doubt that Facebook would separate from that, because that's, Facebook's other market is Instagram. It's like they got the olds on the Facebook and they got most of the youngs on the Instagram.
So we're looking at basically everything's just going to be owned by
American companies.
And Zuckerberg, Elon. Well, that kind of goes hand in hand with, do you think that is a good move for America? Like,
no.
Obviously, we don't want monopolies, and you don't want anybody, no matter where you stand on your political fence, you don't want anybody having control over everything, which is kind of what capitalism aligns for in the end. That's why
we've had to have rules against monopolies. But we still see monopolies being able to be bought up, built up in all these different sectors, and it's not good. No, having a small percentage of companies in control of a large percentage of a market is dangerous. It's not good. It's not good for anybody. So, I don't know. TikTok being shut down because they don't want foreign governments to have as much access to our population's data as they do is kind of understandable, but it's also kind of like, you don't really care about our safety. You just care about our data being used in the American government. You just want an American company. That's what I was about to
say. They want the data for themselves.
Right.
They don't want anybody else getting it.
Yeah. And so it's a little like shady in that regard. Like, that it's not really good reasoning and good virtues for why they're banning it.
Are you saying that our government can be shady?
Yeah, I'm saying that. I am saying that. I have said that, and I will say that. Our government a lot of times likes to act shady. Who knew?
I don't think it's specific to our government.
It's not. It's all governments, all people in any sort of position of power. Eventually, they get corrupted and look out for their own self-interest over the interest of the majority of people, which is what they're supposed to be doing, is looking out for the interest of the majority. But they don't, because I don't know. Especially, it seems like in the last a lot of years, it's been built up more and more about like individuality, right? Your individual. Take care of yourself and everything else will take care of itself, right? It's kind of how people think. So when everybody starts looking out for themselves and then they get in these positions and they start doing shady stuff to quote unquote look out for
that's
myself.
Why we have the right to bear arms. It was in the Constitution, just to kind of prevent a complete, this very thing, a complete government takeover. That's why they included that. And what's crazy, and this might be a little off topic, but if you look at this country and when it was founded, and obviously there's not that you can go back and you find black spots on everything. So I'm not saying I condone everything about American history, but I'll say that they were very fortuitous.
Yeah,
they were very ahead of their time as far as it coming and seeing like the groundwork and a lot of things that was laid out in the Constitution.
Because they paid attention in other government systems of what worked and what didn't work, and tendencies of how people would react over a period of time under that governing system, and so they were able to predict, a lot of people's actions, in a sense of like knowing how they needed to structure things for stuff to be able to not be taken over by money and power-hungry people.
It's pretty beautiful.
Yeah, it started off with great intentions, but just like a lot of other things, it's been bastardized along the way. And so now our beautiful government's been sucked dry. It could be worse. Sure, 100%. I've never once said it couldn't be worse. But the fact is it's getting worse.
Problem. It's a people problem.
It's a people
The policies are just being, people find corners to cut and loopholes, but, that was not the intent the Founding Fathers had. And yes, I'll address the elephant in the room. There was slavery when all this was written, and I agree, but that
but that doesn't necessarily change the perspective of what they're trying to say in there. It's not like
I'm just saying that when you say, anytime you say that, to your point earlier, you got people coming and saying, well, these same people did this and that and this and that. Like, you can't have anything positive. You can't say anything good about anybody.
Yeah. And that's a disagreeing thing.
But when you made that point earlier.
No, I know. I understand.
It's unfortunate. You can't say good. You can't like anything.
Yeah, because people are going to find something negative about that thing. Or if you have negative things to say about stuff, somehow people will find a redeeming thing to say.
Yeah.
So
it's unfortunate. We'll cover that topic next.
Yeah, we'll see. Next time we get together, it'll be after the 19th. So we'll know. We'll know if there's a ban or not a ban. Should be interesting, I guess.
So yeah, I think that covers everything up. We'll be together Monday. Unless I work, and if that's the case, we'll be covering the national championship game after, but it'll be soon after.
Yeah.
I'd like to think that hopefully I'll just be working a day shift Monday, and I can come straight here.
Yeah, so we're going to look forward to the national championship for next time, and then maybe talk about our favorite national championship, not national championship games, just championship games in general, going over those next time. Yeah?
Thank you, guys. Love everybody. Thanks for listening.